The information was raw. It was unverified. In a perfect world, we would have taken longer to be able to figure out whether it was reliable, but we made the judgment, our folks made the judgment, to get that information to the relevant people as quickly as possible. Like I said, 3 different ways in order to leave as little as possible to chance. Now, I didn't see the report myself even until after the 6th. But the way in which it handled, at least as I understand it, strikes me as consistent with our normal process.
Now, just for our viewers, this was a report out of the Norfolk field office that reported chatter about plans for war, about groups of insurrectionists meeting at points to travel to D.C. together. Do you have a better understanding about how that intelligence failed to make its way to law enforcement who were protecting all of you that day?
That's still unclear, and there will have to be more investigation before we can come up with a solid answer. But the bottom line is this. If anyone thought that this domestic terrorism effort, this white supremacist effort, was some minor league effort of a bunch of folks cavorting around in the woods with their face paint on, they learned more on January 6th. This is a serious and dangerous group. It is an heir apparent to the Ku Klux Klan, which used violence throughout the early days of American history after the Civil War, and we have to take them seriously. I think Director Wray made it clear that on the top of the list now, when it comes to threats to America, these domestic terrorists are right up there.
Senator, if you could turn with us to the news that broke when we came on the air, that President Biden has secured enough supply and production of vaccines to have an adequate supply for every American by the end of May. That moves up his promise from just a few weeks ago of having enough supply by the end of July. How much of the COVID relief package is working with that supply to get it into people's communities and arms?
Well, at least $160 billion, and that's the Biden rescue plan. Listen, this president has dealt with this threat to America, this pandemic. He has faced reality. He has come up with a plan to manufacture and produce the vaccine necessary to protect our nation and to break the back of this pandemic. That is exactly what he was elected to do. And when he accomplishes that, and I pray that he will sooner rather than later, we'll have this economy start to recover. We'll see our kids back in school and life coming back to normal. Now, we have had breakthroughs with vaccines. We have more and more choices coming before us. We have opportunities now. It's up to us as Americans to step up, roll up our sleeves, and be part of the effort in America to stop this pandemic.
As soon as he got his announcement out of his mouth, 2 red state governors announced that they would stop enforcing mask mandates and requiring many of the non-medical measures that have kept us safe over the last 12 months. Is there more work that your Republican colleagues could do to get Republican governors in their states to go along with some of those safety measures while the vaccine is shipping out, or is that a lost cause?
Nicole, we've learned the hard way that if you try to cut corners, you're going to pay a price in infections and death. I pray these governors will have second thoughts, be cautious and careful to make sure that they really have turned it around, the infection rate and the death rates in their state. We don't want a resurgence of infections and death, and they have to be careful in doing it. And I hope it doesn't become a political football. Listen, we're all in it together. Politically, the Democrats and Republicans and independents all face the same threat. We all have the same goal. I think if we just hung together for a few months, we can make a big difference in terms of vaccinations and the end of this pandemic.
Why do you think Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump got vaccinated and didn't tell anybody?
Because they were playing this game with the American people, that this was a hoax, that it was going to go away, that it wasn't that serious, that just a couple shots of Lysol or some new chemical formula would be a magic cure. And they didn't want to accept the reality of it. Joe Biden came in, start to finish, and accepted the reality of this pandemic and said, now it's my turn to accept responsibility. President Trump never accepted responsibility.
Another change in U.S. policy is on the front of Russia. The Biden White House today announcing sanctions over the poisoning of Alexei Navalny. We know what we can see. We know what becomes public and what is sort of available for public consumption in terms of announcements like this. But under the surface, Can you explain the shift in the U.S.-Russia relationship with Donald Trump, who had, even to his own advisors, just an inexplicable yearning to be liked by Vladimir Putin?
There was a bromance there, which I'm sure we'll learn someday what it was really all about. Maybe President Trump's tax returns will start to reveal it. But over the years, we know Vladimir Putin, former officer in the KGB, and some of the tactics he's engaged in. And now with Navalny, we can see what he does with dissent. I think President Biden's made it clear. The United States is not going to tolerate that as acceptable conduct, and Putin is going to pay a price for it.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.